We are so happy to have you here for our webinar with the local coordinating councils on the Indiana Coalition Network today. We're going to be talking about the Rural Community Toolbox, empowering local action to combat substance use disorder in rural Indiana. And we're very excited to have Ann Haslet and Betty Ann Bryce here to talk in detail about those things. So I am going to go ahead and share my screen. And as we do this, if you wouldn't mind changing your name so that your county is first and your name is second. That helps a lot of us to start to network with you, to get to know where you're from, so that if we have questions later on or we find a neighboring county, it's always exciting to put those faces with names and whatnot. So the Indiana Coalition Network, we do have 49 counties who have onboarded with this network. It is free, and we're encouraging you, if you're not already on board, to get a hold of us and we'll help you get on board. This is through the LCCs. So if you don't see your county on there, please contact your local coordinating council and we will work with them to get on board. This webinar will be recorded, and then we will have it listed on the Indiana Coalition Network. So if you would like to view it later, or someone in your coalition would, you will have access to it. So it's about 5 after, so I'm comfortable with us rolling. Lori Crosdell is the local coordinating council and DFC coordinator here in Scott County, and she is going to take over for us, and I will manage the slides for her.
Okay, hi everybody. It's great to be on here with you. Welcome to our Indiana Coalition Network webinar. I am excited today to introduce two of my dear friends that I've appreciated working with over the years. Ann Haslet is the Senior Director for Government Relations and Public Affairs at Purdue University, making her the lead advocate for Purdue to state and local officials and responsible for partnering with stakeholders on efforts to spur economic development, prosperity, and quality of life in rural communities. Before this, Ann was a senior advisor for rural affairs in the White House Office of National Drug Control Policy, where she worked across the federal government to equip rural leaders, such as ourselves, with tools to address drug addiction in rural America. She also served as the assistant to the Secretary for Rural Development at the United States Department of Agriculture, where she managed a broad portfolio of programs in housing, business development, and infrastructure to support rural communities. And she also developed and led the department's response to the opioid crisis, including creating greater access to behavioral health care in rural areas. Ann has also worked on Capitol Hill as legal counsel for the agriculture committees in both the U.S. House and Senate. And she's also served in several state leadership roles, including the Director of Agriculture and Chief of Staff to the Indiana Lieutenant Governor. Ann is an Indiana native, like most of us, and a graduate of Kansas State University. Welcome, Ann. And Betty Ann Bryce is detailed to the White House Office of National Drug Control Policy, which we like to refer to as ONDCP, from the U.S. Department of Agriculture to serve as the Special Advisor for Rural Affairs. Prior to joining the U.S. government, she served as the senior policy analyst for the Rural and Regional Unit at the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development for several years in Paris, France. In this capacity, she assessed regional and rural government policies in different countries and co-authored several OECD publications. In addition to a Juris Doctorate, she holds a master's in economic and territorial development from l'Institut des Études Politiques de Paris in France, and a master's in economic and political development from Columbia University School of International and Public Affairs in the United States. Welcome to you both.
Great.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much, Lori and Bobby. It's an honor to be here today and to be with each of you, if even only on Zoom. I think we are all so ready to be able to be with each other in person, but appreciate the team bringing us into the conversation this month. You know, as we come together today to talk about the unique needs of rural Indiana in defeating the enemy of addiction in our communities, I just want to start with expressing my deep appreciation and really heartfelt gratitude for what each of you do as local coalition leaders. I know that this work is hard, it's sometimes thankless, and I think maybe most challenging. It's often activity that takes such a long horizon to see results. But I really believe that what you do is absolutely critical, not only to saving lives, but also to changing that pathway for future generations to follow. I first started working on rural drug issues back in 2017, when I think, like many others, I was greatly moved by the impact of addiction on Scott County, Indiana, my home state. And Lori was one of the very first people that I met as I started working in this space. I was really inspired by her passion for her community and by her, frankly, stubbornness to bring people together around the needs that she saw. Things like planning the county's Take Back Day, to building a recovery wall at the hospital, and making sure that there were peer support services at their local health clinic. That was 3 years ago, and today Lori and that Scott County team continue really to motivate me each day, not only because what they've accomplished to build a resilient and a recovery-friendly place, but also really how that coalition has become a catalyst for action on other issues that impact the future of their county, things like adverse childhood experiences and quality housing. I know those are many of the issues that each of you are working on. So before joining the team at Purdue, as noted in my bio, I worked for Jim Carroll, who is the United States drug czar, and I got to work as a team with Betty Ann Bryce, who you will hear from in a moment. And both of us really worked together to focus all of our time and our energy on the needs of rural communities impacted by drug addiction. Betty Ann and I both traveled extensively and worked daily with rural leaders on this critical issue, everyone from rural sheriffs to the Farm Bureau and rural hospitals. And in this work, I really learned two lessons. First, I learned that addiction knows no boundary in zip code, in economic circumstance, or frankly, in population size. It's often easy to think of this issue as just something we see in our big cities, and that's not the case. In our travels, Betty Ann and I have seen many small towns with big city challenges and very few resources to help people and the families that are impacted by addiction get healthy and stay well. And secondly, and perhaps most importantly, I have learned that the solutions to winning this battle really lie at that local level. Washington, D.C., and here in Indiana, Indianapolis might have policy, and they have a lot of programs that come with funding, but the answers to solving this challenge, especially in rural communities, really come from within. So with that reality, much of our time and our energy has been focused on building tools for that local community leader, tools that they can use to build grassroots solutions that will work in their town, tools that are focused on data, promising practices, and funding. And Betty Ann, we're so blessed to have her today to walk us through some of those resources. Before I turn this over to Betty Ann, I want to make a pitch or a final pitch here for action in your community. As the state's land-grant university, Purdue is in all 92 counties, and we are deeply committed to the well-being of Hoosiers living in rural Indiana. So for those of you in a rural community, if Purdue is not currently at the table in your efforts, please reach out to me directly. Would love to see how we can best support you in this life-saving work. And with that, I will turn this over to Betty Ann.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that introduction to both of you. I'm so grateful to be here and happy to see Anne. I don't want to say old colleague because I last saw her 2 months ago, but good to see her. This is my first time seeing her in a while, so very excited to see that as well. I'm going to share my screen. I say I, but I'm going to get some help doing that because when I do things, bad things happen. Because I do have a PowerPoint that I think it's best to share the tools and you can follow along and see some of the things that we want to discuss with you. While that is happening, just giving you some background, as Anne said, we worked really hard at developing some tools that we think is really, really helpful. Could you just give me a thumbs up if you can see the slide? Perfect, thank you. So I'm going to go through this slide deck pretty quickly. I encourage you to ask questions and I'll share this with you, and if there are follow-up questions, feel free to connect with me. As Anne mentioned, we developed 3 tools. We kind of divided them we put them all in one place, which is the Rural Community Toolbox. But the tools were developed to help communities kind of understand the problem, help communities take action, and then help communities know where to go to get funding. So the first tool, really quickly, is the community assessment tool. We think this is really important. I always like to share it with everyone because it's about data. It's so important for you to understand what's happening in your community, what's happening in your counties, and understand how that relates to everything that you're seeing. So we created this tool, and the idea here is for you to think of this data tool as something that will help you understand, as I said, what's going on, help you think about how to make more efficient choices as you're moving towards grants and opportunities, and also where you should take action. So this tool is kind of helping you kind of think about all these things. So not just fatalities and mortality related to opioids, but poverty, homelessness, all the other factors that are contributing to what you're seeing on the ground. This slide really just shows you the data behind the tool. And I also want to appreciate our contractor that we use, which is North Wolf Center, for developing the tool and giving us the means to share this with you. Really quickly, so you understand what you're going to see. The darker the color, the greater the problem. This was built, it's public, it was built for you. So we tried to make it as simple as possible. Then we decided to do a few things. You can toggle between information on fatalities as it relates to prescription drugs or all drugs. You're toggling between 2 time frames. We didn't think it was relevant for you to see year-to-year information. So you're looking at 5-year tranches to understand how your information and what you've done has moved forward. You can look at it from a state perspective or a county perspective. You can look at urban versus rural. Another quick thing for you to look at is the side panel. As I mentioned, this is drug overdose deaths in the United States. That's your baseline information overlaid with information on race, age, disability, broadband access, household income, poverty. We've also included location of substance use facilities, mental health facilities, and we've included a prosperity index and the list of counties. So with all that to say, this is what you see when you look at the data tool. The darker the color, the greater the problem. I'm going to zoom in for purposes of this conversation just on Indiana. So what I like about this tool, what I encourage you to look at, is when I talked about change over time, you'll see fatalities in Indiana over time just related to prescription opioids. You can see the change from the first 5-year, 2009, 2013 to now, and you can see that change. If we broaden that out to fatalities as it relates to all drugs, you could see the difference. Now, just taking a quick look, I'm sure you know your counties, you can understand what's going on across the board, but this is why this tool is really useful, because when you're looking at change over time, you can see the counties that have improved and maybe have not changed or have not made, something is happening there that we need to talk about. taking a closer look at that, change over time again in 3 areas, thinking about those 5-year tranches again, you'll see, particular in this county, over that 10-year period, no movement. They've been able to stay stable. Why is that the case? There may be some questions there. And again, going into Indiana, finding another county that over that 10-year period has been able to keep their fatalities at a certain level. Now look at some of the counties that are moving in different directions. Take Jackson County, and you see that over that time period, they've moved from 39 deaths to 72. So they are trending up. And taking another county as well, you see quite a stark change in Wayne County. So that's what's great about this tool, is that it gives you an opportunity to look over that 10-year period as what's happening. But then there's also good news. We don't want to just say bad news. We'll see Davis County that is moving in the opposite direction in that period. So is it that policies are taking effect? These are not negative. This is information for you. It doesn't mean that prevention, treatment, and recovery actions are not there, but maybe there's some disconnects, some gaps that you can help think about as you look at just what's happening over that 10-year period. I want to draw you to something else. This tool shares, like I said, all this information from an economic and demographic point of view, but let's take poverty. Indiana's poverty rate, as noted, is 14.1%. So you'll see a few counties that are below the poverty rate, which is good. You'll see a few counties that are above the poverty rate, right? And that's maybe not as good. There could be a correlation between poverty and what you're seeing in your communities. This tool does not draw any analysis. That is up to you. This is just data that we have transcribed so that you can see it a bit more clearly, and you should ask some questions about this. I'm going to take another closer look, because within the pandemic, this action is very important, right? Broadband access. You'll see broadband access rate is particularly high in Indiana. And you'll see a few counties where you have really strong broadband access, but you'll see a few counties where you don't. So it's not going to be that surprising that as we talk about that pivot to virtual everything, there may be some counties that had some challenges there. And this tool helps you to see that a bit clearly, where you're going to have the counties that may be a little slow to react. And within that county, where is the highest access point? Where are the darker places? And how do you provide those services to do the work that you do? So I hope that you take this tool and you go in it and you kind of look closely. The other thing we show you in this tool, and I just blew up Indiana, is the location of the substance use facilities and the mental health facilities. So here you see numbers, but when you click on the tool, you can really go in and you'll see the address and where they are. But I wanted you to get a sense that this information is there already. Going through it, as I said, you can go into it. All of this information I give you prints out in one page. It's very simple. You can take it, you can go to have conversations with it, meetings. Everything I just said was just a snapshot of what you see here, what you can yourself can access. We added another layer for you. So remember, I indicated the locations. If you click on that link that said behavioral health, this is the page that you can print out if you're interested for a particular county. You'll see at the bottom the location and the facilities there as well. So we tried to make all this information as convenient for you. This is all information blown in from the SAMHSA treatment locator. So again, not new information, just organized in a way where you're going to one place to get as much information as possible. The broadband access information is from the FCC. So again, taking our federal government information, putting it to you in one place. You can disagree with it, as you should, but this is information from the feds that we have that you can certainly challenge and argue with me and say, I don't agree. The other thing that we did with through Ann's hard work before she left was the Rural Community Action Guide. So now that you know the data and what it says about your county, what should you be doing in the area of substance use disorder? And that's what this product kind of tells you. It gives you two really important things. It gives you some action steps which I'll show you, but it also gives you some promising practices where if you click on that link, you're taken to, I believe it's over 80 different examples of what rural counties are doing in these areas across the United States. So I encourage you to look at both. But just a quick close-up of what I mean by the Rural Community Action Guide. Again, when you open the guide, you're going to see discussions on 17 different topics that we heard are affecting rural communities and are preventing them from moving forward, or that are considered to be the most pressing issues in the area of fighting drug use in rural America. They're not surprising, things like stigma, how to use data. So we kind of tried to solve that problem with the first half of what I showed you. But just so you look, when you look into the guide, you'll see how to move beyond stigma in rural communities. Each section ends with action steps. I just gave you a snippet of the action steps. Some of them are as much as 6 or 7 that are helping you think about the steps that you can take in your community to move beyond a particular problem. I'm just giving you a snapshot of a few, but I encourage you to take the guide and to look at them. So again, broadband is an issue, action steps to facilitate small-scale broadband projects. You don't have to guess. Here are some ideas that you can take forward if you don't have any. If you have ideas, maybe you don't need the guide, but if you don't, this is what's meant to help you. And again, all these areas have action steps for you. So it looks big, but it's really just 2 pages and then action steps. We've been hearing from a lot of communities and how they've been using this, and they all use it in different ways. Sometimes there's a meeting to talk about what the action steps are. Can we do them? In the treatment sections, how to make drug courts work, and a few action steps for you to think about. Finally, in the recovery section, I actually just kind of highlighted faith-based, but again, these are the different areas covered and some action steps for you to think about as you're thinking about to incorporate faith-based into your community and into your greater work. The final piece of this, which is kind of the most important piece, is now that you've had those 2 pieces, we hope that helps you make efficient grant-making decisions, right? So this is where the big part of the toolbox is how to access money, right? Let's call it what it is. Where do I go for funding and how do I access it? If you've been with us for a while, the first iteration of the toolbox was a PDF that everybody loved. You can nod your head and say you loved it, but it was a great PDF. But we wanted to give you something better, something a bit more interactive, where you could access all the information, funding, treatment, everything you needed to know on an interactive web page. And this is what the Rural Community Toolbox is, simply ruralcommunitytoolbox.org. 16 federal agencies, actually, since I did this, we recruited a new agency, so we're very excited to welcome the State Justice Institute. So basically, these are all the folks that give money to courts and judges, especially in small rural areas. So going forward, you'll start to see grant opportunities from them as well on this page. 46 different key topics. I mentioned already the community assessment tool. That's your lower, you'll see that there, Rural Community Action Guide. What we also added recently is a starting point section. The pandemic has had a really important effect. You follow that road if you're looking for COVID-specific related information that's important for rural, as well as grants and opportunities as they come up. It's just another way of having you navigate this page. This page is pretty straightforward. And we're very excited to have it with you. A quick walkthrough so you see how it works. Funding, you can look funding by type. When you go to funding by type, you see buildings, facility, equipment. When you click on one of those, it takes you to the funding that is available. What's important for you to remember, 17 different federal agencies are putting their information to this site for you. It is not a page that you just check once. I encourage you to keep checking it. Every federal agency is on a different cycle. Some have rolling pieces like maybe a USDA that's open now and it will stay open until it closes. Some will not open until December, like Department of Justice. Some open for 30 days. What's important about this is for you to go in and prepare. So just because it's not open doesn't mean it's not going to open at some time. Don't wait until it opens to become familiar with the things that are needed, especially if you're dealing with some place like the Department of Justice. Their grants are typically only open for 30 days. If you wait until it opens to do everything you need to do, you will be frustrated. However, if you go in now, even though it's inactive, and you look at what's needed, you can prepare, because you may know that the Department of Justice grants open in December and close end of January. So that's a moment where you prepare maybe for some of those things. So don't get distracted by, oh, it's inactive, nothing is open now. Keep in mind, these are agencies on different cycles. We put the eligibility in there. Rural means eligibility is defined by different agencies in different ways. So be mindful of that as you are looking at these opportunities. When you look at treatment and services, again, you can go to employment. When you go to employment, you go to, actually, these are active grants now that fit in this category. So again, there's so many different ways to navigate this. But again, we try to keep it simple. You should give us feedback. We're always looking to improve. This is where I tell you, this is the iPhone 1, right? It only improves if we get feedback. So we try to do it as simple as possible for you, but if there are things that we can be doing different, you should let us know. Also, this is only federal information. This is very important. You'll get information saying, why isn't this here? There are no private sector information in here, no foundations. We could, but we can't manage that. I can manage federal information because it goes through a very stringent clearing process. So for now, you're looking at federal opportunities, federal training opportunities, federal everything. And that's just an important distinction for you to understand. And again, these are just snapshots that I think of ways to navigate to get to information. What I wanted to leave you with is some of the grants in action, and I really looked through our federal agencies for recent, as in the last cycle that just closed. So we're just in the 30 days of FY21. So these were all awards that were made. I mean, there are more, but I only snapshot 4 for you. So these were all grants that were in the toolbox. They closed, the awards have been announced, and I gave you a snapshot. So if you're in 2 counties in Indiana, got money through the Reconnect program to build broadband infrastructure. There are a few of you, but I only snapshot one at HRSA that is getting money to do opioid response planning grants through HRSA. And there's a few that are getting money through SAMHSA to do important things here. So the idea is these are all grants that were on the toolbox, and it's information that's there. This is why I encourage you to check, because this will open and close. If you're wondering who's behind the email when you send it, it's me. So it's no secret sauce here. All the information is going back to me, and I'm working with a team at the University of South Dakota, and we're always updating it with grants. We're always making sure that the grants are relevant to you. That's all I can do. You then have to go in and kind of take it from there. This is important to say, this is a clearinghouse. So when you are ready to apply, you're going directly to HUD, you're going directly to SAMHSA, or directly to grants.gov. This was just a way for us to organize the information for you, so you're not going to 19 different places. You add the toolbox to and you check it. And that's, and we think that this works, but again, feedback from you helps us make this better and stronger. So with that, that's my pitch on the toolbox. Happy to take any questions you have. Thank you.
Thank you,
And I
Betty.
don't know, Ann, if you want to add anything.
No, Betty Ann, I think you've captured it very well. Meant to be a clearinghouse and help people get pointed towards the right direction for navigating all the resources that are out there.
Yeah, and I was excited to see that Centerstone grant captures Scott County as one of the counties in that grant that was received by Centerstone. And I also have got to put a plug in for that other grant I saw in there, Betty Ann, for the Jackson County Connect, because now to be way out in the middle of rural America and now working pretty much full time from home, that fiber optic internet service has just been amazing for the work that I'm able to do from home, because I'm directly benefiting from that. So does anyone else have any questions for either Ann or Betty Ann about the Rural Community Toolbox and your specific to your community? Or Allie from Solutionize put a link to the Rural Community Toolbox. It's listed on our resource list at the Indiana Coalition Network, and it's if you want to click on the chat box. Also, Connie, if you want to type in the chat box, I need your last name and the county you represent. Anybody have any questions? Those of you, we have 23 counties who have the Drug-Free Communities Support Program funding. Scott County is one of those, and that grant is managed out of the White House Office of National Drug Control Policy, which is where Betty Ann works out of. So Indiana is so appreciative of this DFC funding that allows us to do so much great coalition work in Indiana. And I know one of the amazing benefits that's also come out of that is that Scott County now has a youth coalition. Since 2018, it's grown to 30 youth and they actually even gave a presentation this morning on Zoom to the Indiana Youth Workers Conference. So that's been exciting. We appreciate that funding so much from ONDCP.
Lori, this is Ann. I might make a pitch because she won't do it herself for her own product. But Betty Ann mentioned that the toolbox is limited to federal funding. And that's truly because there's so much that goes into clearing these announcements and making sure that everything is, is legit, that gets posted. But there are also significant funding opportunities from the private sector, foundations, and those are often hard to keep on top of. And Betty Ann started a resource email that goes out every couple of weeks. I will let her talk more about that because I think that's in addition to the website, that's a great way to keep up with some of the non-federal government opportunities that might be out there. And it's a wonderful resource under Betty Ann's leadership. And I know she would be happy to add you to it if you want to be added onto that list. So I'll turn it over to her if she wants to say any more about that.
Sure. So there's so many, obviously there are funds that you won't see on the toolbox that are from foundations, that are from, whether it's a small Home Depot grant for $2,000 to do a community garden or to contribute to something. So I'm in a position where folks send me information on grants. So we started this almost 2 years ago, I think, where I would just send around resources you may have missed that are also options for you. And that list has grown over time. I know Lori, you receive it, and I know you share it around, but happy to add you on it. It's not super elaborate. It comes from me, from my email address, and I try to not spam anyone. So if I only add people who request to be added, so it's really simple. If you're not getting it, it's because you've never sent me a request to be added. If you'd like to see it, please just send me an email, and Lori knows how to reach me if you don't have my email address or it's on the back of this slide deck, you can certainly be added to it. And it's quite, like I said, it really does have reminds you of federal grants that are open, but more importantly, it reminds you of foundation grants that are available nationally or maybe regionally, and other little grants that you're not aware of that we encourage you to think about as well as you are developing your strategy for the problem that you're trying to solve.
I have a question about the interim data. So the charts were astounding. I really like to see that 5 years and then to take it from one group to the next and see that change over time. So in the next 5 years, while we're waiting for that next bit of data to be analyzed and put online, where should we go to get that? Is there one more clearinghouse that we can quickly access those details?
We actually update this every year, so the 10 years changes. It is updated yearly. We use CDC and all the data. If you go back to the page, the slide on the data, you'll see where we get our source from. But this gets updated between December 20th and the second week of January. So it depends on when CDC updates its data. You'll see a change, and you'll see the year numbers change as well. So right now it reflects the latest CDC data, but whenever CDC changes, and they do it yearly, we change as well. So you're always going to see these numbers change. So it could be information that's not reflected yet. We know that relapses have been happening, maybe some fatalities are going up. So some of that progress that you're seeing may change because the new data series may reflect that, right? So it's just a way of keeping you abreast of this is what's happening. And you may be frustrated thinking, I'm doing all this work, but I'm not seeing it. It takes a while to see it in the data. So that's why you may see it in the next change. You'll see an uptick, and that'll tell you something is working. Or if you don't see a change, that could tell you there's a gap. So it's not the gap with you, but there may be gaps in other places. This is a moment where I say, keep in mind that the employment sector has been severely affected by the pandemic. So you're doing prevention, which is great, but if folks can't find jobs or if jobs become more difficult to access, anticipate that the overarching data fall may reflect things that are outside your control. And that's why it's important to have that wider view of it and not just think about, I'm doing all this work, why isn't it changing? This helps you understand the other factors that are affecting what you're doing in your county. And the other thing I'll add, because Lori and I, when we last met pre-COVID, we talked a lot about transportation was a problem. We can argue now that transportation has fallen to the bottom, and now broadband has risen to the top because of the pandemic in terms of being a problem. So talk about a shift in the conversation that's relevant to rural.
So, well, is there we'll take one more question. If anyone has one. Okay. All right, well, we'll go ahead and turn over now to Ali Lapitan, and she's going to talk about on the Indiana Coalition Network work groups and also finding the community toolbox online. Thank you so much, Betty Ann and Ann. This was great.
No problem.
Hi, everyone. Let me just find my, okay. Trying to, okay, can you see my screen?
No.
Okay, so hi, thanks for coming to this session, and thanks Betty Ann, and that was, for me personally, that was very useful. Even if I'm not a huge share, I mean, it's useful knowledge to know what the resources are, but as Bobby mentioned earlier, we have it on the public resources. This is on, if you click on the resources here up top, this is the Rural Community Toolbox and the podcast that, which county was that?
Porter
Um,
County, Don Pelk.
Yeah, Don Pelk had with Anne is also surfaced here. So that's just, and we have other things like campaigns and other resources that are available on the resources page. So what I wanted to do is um, basically wanted to show you about the groups. Oh, God. Here, God, I wanted to, I'm logged on us. Okay, so as a member of the community, um, all of the coalition members that have been onboarded should have access to this. And after logging on, you can see the different functionalities that are available: information exchange, conversations, member connect, and the groups. The groups are what we're gonna talk about today. And the groups are actually a way to have, groups of work groups. Basically, these are stakeholders, members who want to work together on some, initiatives, or have like have a need a space outside of the whole community to coalesce and do their work. For example, we have here Fountain County LCC has created a group, and well, this will be what do you call it? When the members of Fountain County will have their members join the group, and it's easy to join a group. You just do join this group, and for groups like this, because it's restricted, the owner or the who's responsible, the person responsible for the group, will have to admit that or accept that request to join the group. Um, and we have the different regions. We have region 6 here, which is, I think this is our most active region right now. We have the different counties. These are the latest activities of the group. Inside the group, we have members. I mean, if you're, these are the members. These are active. Any member of the group has access to the active members, and this is you can actually participate. Well, right now because I'm logged in as community manager, I'm actually the owner of this particular group. Anyway, there are other functionalities in the group, which is similar to what we have in the community, like resources. We can have resources. The members of the group can share resources to the other members. These are, like videos, documents that you want to share to this small group, and not necessarily for the broader community. There are conversations. Members of the group can hold conversations, especially if there's an ongoing, say, work or collaboration topics that are top of mind for the particular region, for example. Like, for example, on the last call that we had, there was the thing about, there was an active discussion about drug take back, stuff like that. It's like, what do you do? How are you doing these things? One county, maybe in the coalition, is maybe doing something that's novel, for example, and useful, that could be useful to the rest of the region, of the
Allie, one
members.
thing I wanted to share that Elaine just put in the text box. She shared that the Fountain and Vermilion counties LCC restricted groups, they use it for their LCC officers.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, so that's awesome.
Let's show that then. Oops. LCC, Vermilion.
Yeah, Fountain and Vermilion counties,
Oh,
restricted
this is-
group.
oh, it is a restricted group.
Mhm.
Fountain County,
Yeah,
Vermilion County.
Vermilion, yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
that was the group. Oh, so yeah, Elaine, actually, the contact for this group homepage. Okay, so there, I mean, this is being used as, oh, you know what's happening? Actually, I can't see it because it's a private group.
Right.
Now I know why I can't see anything, because I'm not a member of the group. That's okay. Now I'm showing you what how it is. If you're a member of the group, you can see this thing. So anything it says information is only available to the members. Okay. Oh, that's great.
Good to see that they're using it. I know that.
I know. So
Steve has a
Elaine,
couple
you
of
may
work
want to talk. Can you talk to it, Elaine? That would be great. Share your experience.
No, I was just telling everybody on this Zoom that that's what it was for. The officers, you all had said before, put your comprehensive community plans there and different things. So people down the road, like when I'm not coordinator or something, or the president's not president, then the resources will still be there.
Yeah, exactly. And if other members of your coalition need to look at it, I mean, your board, you can always just get them added to, the membership and give them access to that rather than emails flying all around.
Good point.
Yeah. And
So-
if there's any, like for Laurie, the coalitions, the LCC, Scott County LCC, if they use it, I mean, since they're using it, you can use it to share, materials and stuff like that, like on the region.
Mhm.
The ones on the region, region 6, for example,
Mhm.
where Lori they have shared this thing. You can start conversations among the groups, like how can we benefit from this?
Mhm.
How can we duplicate it or steal some information, some knowledge from it, implement it our way?
It's about time for us to do around the Zoom. So
Yep.
Allie, are we ready for that?
Yep.
Okay, we want to find out from all of you who were able to join us today about what is happening in your area. So would anybody like to share anything important or special you've got going on right now? Just unmute yourself and go ahead and share. I think Bobby's gonna share her screen now. Anyone want to share anything? How are your drug take back events going? I know Scott County has one this coming Saturday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Scottsburg Walmart. We're really excited about that since we didn't get to do the one in April. We've got great cooperation from the Austin and Scottsburg Police Departments and from the Scott County Sheriff's Department. And Walmart has been a great partner in putting this on with us and allowing us to do it there because the Scottsburg Walmart is a epicenter of a lot of activity on Saturdays. So anybody else have things going on that you want to share?
Or any announcement, maybe any announcement for this coming weeks or months?
Yeah. Okay. Is there any topic that you'd like us to cover?
Mhm.
We want to make sure this is just a reminder. If your county is not on this list, it means that you have not onboarded on the Indiana Coalition Network yet. We hope you can do so if you're having issues. I mean, I don't know if the reason is because you're scared away from it. It literally took me less than 5 minutes to complete the onboarding form. So it goes really quick. Bobby or I can help you with that. Once you do onboard, make sure you join your region's work group so you can communicate with other people in your region and begin to share resources. Any other topics you want us to cover for the upcoming webinars that we have in November and December?
One of the topics we're looking at are those youth coalitions, because we're starting to see them pop up. And certainly, Lori, your group is amazing. Just the number of places that they've been able to speak, that they, last month, they held the town hall meeting where they had 85 people come in to learn about drug and alcohol use and misuse and kind of empower the people of our community to do a better thing and see what our youth are doing and that they're passionate about it. So I'd love to see that happen, a little deeper conversation about how you're able to make that work. How do you make it sustainable when kids are pulled in so many directions with academics and athletics and church life and other activities that they have going on?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really good, Bobby. And I did want to also share that as many of you probably know, the Indiana Attorney General's drug symposium is going on right now, virtually and live. And actually last year in Noblesville, that our youth coalition Empower got to present in person. So it's exciting to see how far they've come in just a few years. So yeah, if you know how to use the little reaction button at the bottom right-hand corner, if you would put a thumbs up if your coalition has if your county has a youth coalition, if you would go ahead and do a thumbs up, just so we can get an idea. So, okay, well, we want to, if nobody, y'all are a quiet group today, we just want to remind everybody, in a smaller group today, we understand there were a lot of things going on in Indiana. We want to remind you that November's webinar falls on Thanksgiving. So all of us are going to enjoy that time with our friends and family. So that webinar for November will be pre-recorded and it will be shared with all of you so you can view it when it's a convenient time for you. And, you know, we encourage you to join your work groups and, you know, follow up with us if you have any questions. Here's the information on the emails on Betty Ann and Ann. We thank you both for being such great speakers today. I miss seeing you guys, and thank you for sharing with us this great resource for our communities in Indiana. We really appreciate it, and we hope you all have a great day and take care, and God bless.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.